As machines take on new roles, what will the humans do? I'm Amelia.
And I'm Mike, and this is Human After All.
Okay, Mike, so tell me, what do you think? What are we humans going to be doing?
What are we going to be doing? So it's not fruity drinks on the beach?
I guess not. I mean, we're going to have to do something to fill our days.
It's not endless clicking and clacking to appease our robot overlords?
That sounds pretty horrible.
Right. It's welcome to the dystopian episode. No. What are we going to do? Well, Amelia, when I look at this AI moment, I can't help but do that thing that my team and I have always done, which is to remind ourselves that futurists are secretly historians. When you look back at the last 100 years or so, you start to realize that automation ain't new, right? Automation has been rising like a water line for several generations. Every time automation comes for a class of human endeavor, there is an existential freakout.
Right, the crisis.
And I think the crisis right now hitting white-collar professionals and creatives is pretty acute.
I mean, it feels like an existential one.
Sure. I mean, right? Because we think about ourselves as thinkers.
Well, and we've identified ourselves. Like our whole identity is that we are the intelligent.
Right. And here comes our robot sidekick saying, "Not so fast, my friend." And so one of my favorite stories here, one of my favorite examples of what we're going to do starts with a conversation with CEOs at our Deloitte University about 2 years ago. I'm showing this group of 10 captains of industry
right,
an image diffusion model. One of these.
What is that?
Okay, plain English. It's a genie lamp where you ask for a picture and it conjures it up.
Okay.
Right? One of these things, right? And I say to these fellas, and tragically, like all fellas, right? I go, you can see any picture you want. You're literally limited only by your imagination.
So feed it anything you want.
Anything you want.
What did they come up with? Like
you could tell. Well, first of all, you could tell they hadn't had to think of anything creative in a decade.
Okay.
But after some hemming and hawing and body language like this one guy goes, "Oh, show me a sunset." That's a generous response. Because that was a very polite, Because what we all did when he said that, we're like, "Oh, like that's all you got, guy? A sunset?" The picture that comes up is like the world's least compelling AI-generated sunset.
Okay.
The temptation...
What was his response?
His response was disappointment.
Okay.
Because...
like he'd seen better.
Yeah, and garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
I gave this thing blah, and I got blah back.
Right.
His chief of staff comes in. She's about 15 years his junior. She literally cracks her knuckles. Says, "Can I try?"
Okay.
By all means. She goes, "I want to see potato chips versus pretzels in a fight."
Okay.
We're all like...
She just had that. Just came to her. She'd been thinking about that.
Yeah.
And okay.
She goes, "That's not the half of it. Potato chips get nunchucks. Pretzels get squirt guns. Whole flipping things on the planet Mars."
Oh.
Now everybody wants to see it.
Right.
Including Sunset Guy.
Right.
Picture comes up. Literal applause.
Nice.
It's a modern Michelangelo.
Right.
And Sunset Guy says, and I quote, "I do believe this has the potential to change the trajectory of our business for the better." And I'm thinking, don't celebrate the tech. Celebrate the young lady.
Interesting. So his response was about the technology, not about her own kind of creativity.
That's why and when it occurred to me that what we're going to be doing is, one, creativity, right? I prefer the term ingenuity, kind of that mashup of creativity, curiosity, asking good questions, right? Albert Einstein, middle of the road IQ relative to the Manhattan Project.
Right.
But curious, creative, clever, different bag of skills.
But so isn't there a theory that AI will be able to create better than humans will be able to create, right? In terms of, art, all of human literature, like all of the different texts.
Well, I think, Amelia, that's maybe where thing 2 pops in is initiative.
Okay.
With sufficient prompting and direction, you could create some modern marvels. But AIs aren't so great at self-starting. Right? They're not so great at...
So they can't ask questions of themselves.
not in a meaningful way yet.
Okay.
And then I think thing three, and I'd love your thoughts, is it's empathy. It's understanding humans. Like who better than a human to understand a human? I shared some of these with my mom before she passed. These three nerd words.
Right. These big ideas.
Yeah. I said, it's ingenuity, empathy, initiative.
Right.
She goes, why do you got to make it so complicated? It's Wizard of Oz. It's brains, heart, and courage.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, listen to your mom. What do you think?
So these are the things that in some ways endure, because we might think of them as new. We might give them fancy or new words, but the ability to be curious, to ask a better question, to reflect upon ourselves, and then have empathy with another, like that's what we think will endure. I buy it, right? I like that idea. Like that's what we are uniquely suited for as humans. And one of the things I also think about is, but how are you and I to know, right? How, I often think about like, put this little episode in a time capsule and we'll come back to it, 20 years from now and we'll cringe, right? Because we didn't know the answers. We didn't know how it will play out. But that's one of the reasons I love this project that the Smithsonian is doing, which is they've open sourced this question about what does it mean to be human? And anyone can write in their answer, and it's kind of scrolling, right? So it's different if you go back every day.
Oh, so it's like everyone can engage.
Anyone can engage. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but it feels like this ongoing project that we get to define what it means to be human. And some of my favorite answers are, there's everything from the philosophical esoteric of, to be human is we're the only race that reflects upon our own identity, right? Reflects upon our own sort of sentient beingness. And then there's the
not a lot of French philosophy with the orangutan population.
Well, exactly. But then there's like, to be human is to not be a cat, right? Which is also true, right? These are both definitions and kind of ideas that people have come up with. But so, yeah, that's one of the things I like about asking these questions. Right.
But I feel like you Jedi mind tricked me a little bit, because you that's what the Smithsonian's cooking. What do you, Amelia Dunlop, think are the enduring human capabilities, and sort of what's our bag, as the great philosopher Austin Powers once said?
I mean, I think a lot about the fact that the fundamental human condition is to suffer, right? That suffering is relative, right? That every human will at some point know what it means to stub a toe, cut your arm, or lose a loved one, right? That is what it means, in some ways, kind of the fundamental human condition. So we suffer. And then compassion, which I didn't hear you talk about. You talked about empathy, but compassion is just the ability to suffer with. So I don't know, but I don't think that AI in any near future will be able to actually suffer with us.
Right.
So I think about, yes, now there are the robots that can offer sort of elder care, and they can help remind you to take your medication, and they can help remind you of your favorite photographs and play your favorite song. And there's a role for that, for sure. There's kind of companionship, but I'm not sure that compassion is the same as companionship. And for me, this came to life when my daughter had her wisdom teeth out a few weeks ago. She's 14 years old. And at night, the pain was so bad that she couldn't sleep. She was sort of sitting upright, kind of propped up. And it's just that look in her eye of, it was just, she was suffering.
Right.
And as her mother, there was nothing I could do, right? She'd already taken some pain medication, just kind of wait for that to kick in. She couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. So we were just sort of sitting there together. And it was in that moment of, that is really what compassion is. It's just having another human being sit with you in your pain. I don't know if AI can do that, or if we would want it to.
Right. Just being,
right,
being present.
Showing up.
Right. If there was ever an opportunity to ask our audience what they think, I mean, this would, I think, be it.
Totally.
Like what we'd love to know is what do you think are those things that will remain uniquely the province of people, right? Our enduring capabilities, our, not even superpowers, just our powers 5 years, 50 years from now. Thanks for your thoughts. And thanks for joining us on Human After All.